There is a pile of metal and polymer sitting on the asphalt at the Gretna Bridge. It is raining, the water is rising, and the pile is growing. It contains $3,000 worth of optics, a dozen Glock 19s, hunting rifles, and custom Bowie knives. The men and women adding to that pile aren't criminals. They are fathers. They are mothers. They are people who thought they were prepared. They are handing over their only means of defence because the National Guardsman on the other side of the barricade gave them a simple choice. You can keep the gun and stay here in the flood zone to die, or you can drop it in the pile and get on the truck. That is the reality of Week 1. You have spent years fantasising about defending your homestead from a rogue government seizure team kicking down your door. You prepared for a fight. You did not prepare for a checkpoint. The government doesn't need to come to your house to take your gear. They just have to wait for you to come to them. And when you do, you will hand it over willingly, because the alternative is watching your family drown. Listen to me. The cinematic idea that a squad of federal agents is going to go door to door in the suburbs during the first week of a grid-down scenario to collect your rice and ammo is a logistical fantasy. They don't have the manpower. In a real collapse, the authorities are overwhelmed, understaffed, and terrified. They are not hunting for your freeze-dried beef stroganoff. They are trying to keep the highways clear and the shelters from burning down. But that doesn't mean your gear is safe. It means you are focusing on the wrong threat vector. The confiscation happens at the choke points. It happens at the shelter doors. It happens on the evacuation buses. If your survival plan involves moving from point A to point B, or entering any facility run by the state, you are walking into a disarmament trap. Today we are going through the actual blacklist. We are going to look at the specific items that get taken, not because of a conspiracy, but because of safety codes, panic, and operational procedure. We are going to talk about why your grey man skills matter more than your holster, and how to pack so you don't end up unarmed and helpless in a gymnasium full of desperate strangers. Most of you are sitting on a stockpile that you think will last 3 months, but the math says you have 11 days. You are guessing. In a crisis, guessing gets your kids killed. You need to stop estimating and start calculating. I built the Protocol Survival app to be your command center. It doesn't just list gear, it runs the numbers. You input your inventory, your family size, and your caloric baseline, and it gives you a hard, brutal survival score. It tells you exactly when the water runs out. It tells you which gaps in your prep will kill you first. It is not a game. It is a logic engine for keeping your people alive. Most people think they have 2 weeks of food. The math usually says 4 days. Stop guessing. Go to protocolsurvival.com right now or check the link in the description. Get your real survival score. The calculator is free to try. Do it before the grid goes down. Let's run the scenario. It is day 4 of a regional flooding event combined with a power grid failure. Your neighborhood is compromised. The water is effectively sewage. You have made the decision to evacuate because your daughter has a fever and you can't treat it at home. You pack your bug-out bag. You have your sidearm, a subcompact 9mm, concealed in your waistband. You have a good knife. You hike 3 miles to the extraction point, where military transport trucks are loading civilians. The crowd is frantic. There is shoving. The soldiers are screaming for order. You get to the front of the line. The soldier isn't asking for your ID. He is patting people down. He is running a wand over jackets. This isn't a political statement. It is standard operating procedure for putting 40 panicked civilians into the back of a confined canvas truck. He finds the pistol. He doesn't arrest you. He doesn't read you your rights. He points to a plastic bin filled with other confiscated weapons and says, "Drop it or step out of line." Behind you, 50 people are screaming to move. Your daughter is burning up with fever. You look at the soldier, you look at the bin, and you look at your child. You drop the gun. You get on the truck. You are now leaving the danger zone, but you are entering the unknown completely defenseless. The failure here wasn't that you owned a gun. The failure was that you brought a kinetic solution to a logistical problem. The average prepper thinks they can talk their way out of this. They think they can flash a concealed carry permit or cite the Second Amendment and the soldier will apologise and let them board. That is not how chaos works. That soldier has been awake for 36 hours. He has orders that say, no weapons on transport. He does not have the bandwidth to debate constitutional law with you. If you argue, you are not a patriot standing his ground. You are a security threat holding up the line. The crowd will turn on you before the soldier does. By bringing a weapon into a controlled evacuation corridor without a plan to secure it or ditch it, you forced a confrontation you could not win. The result is that you lost the asset permanently. You donated a $600 tool to a government disposal bin because you didn't understand the rules of the game. The blacklist item here is anything that looks like a weapon at a checkpoint. It doesn't matter if it's legal. It matters if it scares the guy holding the clipboard. Now I know what you are typing in the comments. You are saying, Sergeant Miller, the Stafford Act prohibits the confiscation of firearms during a disaster. Congress passed the Disaster Recovery Personal Protection Act after Katrina. They can't legally take my gun. You are technically correct, and in a courtroom 3 years after the disaster, that argument will be a winner. But on the ground, in the mud, it is irrelevant. Let me steelman your argument. The law explicitly says federal funds cannot be used to seize lawfully owned firearms. It states that, unless you are being arrested, they cannot take your property. However, there is a massive loophole that you are ignoring. The law allows for temporary surrender as a condition of boarding rescue transport. It allows for disarmament in sensitive areas like shelters and government buildings. They aren't confiscating your weapon, they are storing it. Or they are denying you service until you dispose of it. The officer isn't seizing your property, he is telling you that you cannot bring that property onto this helicopter. If you choose to leave the property behind, that is your choice. See the difference? The law protects your ownership, but it does not guarantee your mobility. If you rely on the letter of the law to save you in a grid-down scenario, you are going to die clutching a piece of paper. Let's talk about this temporary surrender. In theory, they tag your weapon, give you a receipt, and you pick it up when the emergency is over. In reality, during Katrina and subsequent disasters, the chain of custody breaks down immediately. The officer tosses your Glock into a pile. The tag gets wet and falls off. The bin gets loaded onto a truck that goes to a depot 3 counties away. Or, in the chaos, things just walk away. When you try to claim it later, nobody knows where it is, and your receipt is a piece of wet cardboard that nobody respects. Do not bank on getting anything back. If you hand it over, consider it gone. This is why your strategy must change. You separate your home defense kit from your evacuation kit. If you are bugging in, you keep the heavy hardware. If you are bugging out through public channels, you need tools that are disposable, concealable, or non-threatening. You don't bring the heirloom 1911 on the FEMA bus. You bring a cheap polymer pistol you can afford to lose. Or better yet, you avoid the bus entirely. New scenario. The floodwaters have receded, but the power is out for the foreseeable future. It is winter. Your house is freezing. You head to the designated emergency shelter at the local high school. You are smart. You brought supplies. You have a cart with blankets, food, and a small propane camp stove with 4 canisters of fuel so you can boil water and cook hot meals for your family. You roll up to the intake desk in the gymnasium lobby. The volunteer takes one look at the green propane bottles and shakes her head. "You can't bring those in here," she says. You try to explain that it's safe, that you know how to use it. A police officer steps over. "Fire marshal rules," he says. "No combustibles inside the sleeping area. Period." They aren't trying to oppress you. They are terrified that one idiot with a camp stove is going to burn down a gym filled with 500 sleeping people. You are given a choice. Dump the fuel and the stove in the trash outside, or stay out in the freezing cold. You look at your shivering wife. You look at the warm gym. You dump the fuel. Now you are inside, but you have lost your ability to boil water. You are dependent on the shelter's supply, which is running low. This is the second category of the blacklist: safety hazards. The government doesn't confiscate fuel and stoves because they want you to freeze. They do it because mass casualty fires in shelters are a historical nightmare. In week 1, anything that burns, explodes, or fumes is contraband in a public space. This includes gasoline jerry cans, kerosene heaters, propane tanks, and even candles. If you bring these to a shelter, they will be taken. The same goes for large blades. You might see your machete as a survival tool for chopping wood. The shelter security sees a weapon that could be used in a riot over the last bottle of water. They will ban it. The rule of thumb for shelters is, if you can't take it on an aeroplane, you probably can't take it into a shelter. The difference is, the TSA lets you mail it home. The shelter just makes you toss it in the dumpster. Your prep needs to account for this. If you are heading to a public facility, your warmth strategy cannot rely on combustion. It must rely on insulation. Wool blankets, mylar, sleeping bags. Nobody confiscates a wool blanket. Here is a darker one. Medical supplies. You are the guy with the medic bag. You have trauma shears, tourniquets, antibiotics, and maybe some prescription painkillers you stockpiled for emergencies. You are in the shelter and someone gets hurt. You spring into action. You open your kit. A nurse or an EMT sees what you have. Specifically, they see the prescription meds. In a normal world, that's your property. In a disaster shelter, controlled substances that are not in a bottle with your name on it are contraband. If you are flashing a baggie of oxycodone or antibiotics, you are flagging yourself as a drug diversion risk. Security will seize the drugs. They have to. They can't have unregulated narcotics circulating in a refugee centre. Now, not only have you lost your pain management prep, but you are on a watch list within the shelter. You are that guy. The staff is watching you. You have lost the element of the grey man. The lesson here is discreet packaging. Never flash your full inventory. If you need to take a pill, you take it privately. If you have bulk supplies, they stay deep in the bag, buried under the dirty laundry. Do not try to be the hero medic unless it is life or death, because showing your hand often means losing your hand. We need to talk about the biggest trigger for confiscation. It isn't the item, it is the behaviour. I have seen guys get through checkpoints with hunting knives because they looked like boring, tired dads. I have seen guys get a Swiss Army knife confiscated because they were acting twitchy, aggressive and loud. In a disaster, law enforcement is profiling for threat. If you are wearing full camo, a plate carrier and shouting about your rights, you are a threat magnet. You are begging them to search you. You are begging them to find a reason to detain you. If you look like a refugee, tired, compliant, holding a kid's hand, wearing blue jeans and a hoodie, you become invisible. The grey man concept isn't just about blending in, it is about resource protection. The guy who looks like a tactical operator gets searched. The guy who looks like a confused accountant gets waved through. Your gear should be hidden. Your demeanour should be passive. You say, "Yes, sir," "No, sir," and you keep moving. The moment you challenge authority in a high-stress zone, you invite a search. And once they search, they will find the things you are trying to hide. The most dangerous thing you can carry in week 1 is an ego. I can hear the comments again. Sergeant Miller, I just won't go to a shelter. I'll stay home. I'll bug in. Nobody takes my stuff there. That is a solid plan A. It should be everyone's plan A. But as a soldier, I tell you, plan A rarely survives first contact. What happens when the fire from the neighbour's house spreads to yours? What happens when the floodwaters rise to the second floor? What happens when a gas main ruptures? You might be forced to evacuate. And when you are forced to evacuate at 3 a.m. with zero notice, you are entering the system. You don't get to choose the terms of the disaster. You have to prepare for the contingency where you are stripped of your fortress. If your entire survival strategy relies on staying in one building that you control, you are fragile. You need a tiered system. Tier 1, the fortress, home. Tier 2, the mobile kit, vehicle. Tier 3, the wreckage, on foot, shelter. Tier 3 is where the blacklist applies. If you don't have a plan for being disarmed and searched, you aren't prepared for the worst case scenario. You are only prepared for the convenient scenario. Let's touch on comms. You have a Baofeng UV5R. You are listening to emergency frequencies. You are in a shelter or a transport truck. You start transmitting. You are asking for updates, or maybe you are just chatting with another prepper. A National Guardsman hears you. He walks over and takes the radio. Why? Because in a disaster zone, unverified transmissions on emergency bands are considered interference. They are trying to coordinate helicopter landings and rescue boats. They don't know you are a good guy. They hear an unauthorised signal stepping on their tactical net. They will confiscate the radio to clear the channel. Again, this is not a conspiracy to silence you, it is spectrum management. If you have a radio, listen. Do not transmit unless you are dying. If you transmit, do it away from authorities. If you walk around with a radio on your chest rig, squawking static, it will be taken. Keep it in the bag. Use an earpiece. Be invisible. Speaking of being cut off, let's talk about your data. When the grid goes down, the cloud evaporates. All those Google Docs where you saved your radio frequencies, your map coordinates, and your medical guides, they are gone. You can't access them. You need a system that works when the cell towers are dead. I built Protocol Survival with a dedicated offline mode. Once you download the app, the core database lives on your phone. Your inventory lists, your survival calculators, your expiration dates, they are local. They don't need a server. They don't need Jeff Bezos. They are in your pocket. This is critical. You do not want to be the guy trying to load a web page to figure out how to purify water while the network is timing out. Secure your data now. Go to protocolsurvival.com, download the app, sync it, then turn on airplane mode and test it. Be ready for the blackout. We have to talk about the hardest item on the blacklist. It isn't gear, it's your dog. Most general population shelters have a strict no pets policy due to hygiene and allergy rules. Service animals are allowed by law, but good luck proving your German Shepherd is a service dog in the middle of a hurricane evacuation without paperwork. During Katrina, people refused to leave their homes because the rescue boats wouldn't take their dogs. They died in their attics rather than abandon their pets. If you show up to a shelter with a dog and they say no, you have a heart-wrenching choice. Turn the animal loose or stay outside in the storm. This is a binary outcome. You cannot negotiate it. Your prep must include a plan for the animals that does not involve public shelters. Can you leave them with a relative in a safe zone? Do you have a carrier that disguises them? Do you have a tent so you can camp outside the shelter grounds? If you don't have a plan for the dog, you don't have a plan for yourself, because you will not leave them behind.
Now for some good news.
What usually doesn't get confiscated? Food and water. Despite the fear-mongering, authorities generally want you to have your own food. It is one less mouth for them to feed. If you show up with a backpack full of protein bars and water bottles, they aren't taking it. They are relieved. The only exception is bulk hoarding that looks like black market supply, or open containers that look unsafe. But personal rations? You keep those. Cash? You keep it, though it might be worthless. Precious metals? Nobody is searching for your silver coins at a checkpoint. They are looking for weapons and contraband. Focus your concealment efforts on the things that go bang or boom, not on your granola bars. Don't waste energy hiding your lunch. Hide your knife.
So how do you beat the blacklist?
You use the decoy strategy. If you know you are walking into a search, give them something to find. If you have a high-value multi-tool you need to keep, carry a cheap $3 gas station knife clipped to your pocket in plain sight. When the security officer asks if you have weapons, you pull out the cheap knife and say, "Just this, officer." You hand it over. You act disappointed. He feels like he did his job. He confiscated a weapon. He is less likely to dig deeper into your bag where the real tool is hidden. This is psychological manipulation. You are feeding the system's need for compliance without sacrificing your critical capabilities. The same goes for compliant behavior. Be the first to open your bag. Be helpful. "Here, let me move this for you." The more helpful you are, the faster they want to get rid of you. They move you through the line. The guy who clutches his bag tight is the one who gets it dumped on the table. Another strategy is the cash. If you are forced to evacuate and you have items you cannot bring, like your primary rifle or bulk ammo, do not just leave them on the bed for looters. And do not try to smuggle them if the risk is too high. Cache them. If you have time, bury them in a PVC pipe in the backyard. Hide them in the attic insulation. Lock them in a job box bolted to the floor in the basement. You are effectively confiscating them from yourself, but you are preserving the possibility of recovery. If you try to carry an AR-15 onto a rescue boat, it is gone forever. If you hide it in the walls of your house, it might be there when you return. It might be rusted, it might be damaged, but a 50% chance of recovery is better than a 0% chance at the checkpoint. This requires accepting a hard truth. You are leaving the gun behind to save the family. It feels wrong. It feels like surrender. But it is actually a strategic retreat. Let's look at life inside the wire. You made it into the shelter. You have your grey man clothes, your hidden cash, and your wits. You didn't bring the forbidden items. Now you are watching others. You see a guy getting kicked out because he was caught smoking in the bathroom. You see a family arguing because their dad tried to smuggle in a bottle of whiskey and it got smashed by security. The blacklist creates a black market. The items that are banned become the most valuable currency. A cigarette, a lighter, a small pocket knife. If you manage to sneak in a Bic lighter, you are now a rich man. But you have to be careful. In a high-density survival situation, displaying wealth, even small wealth, makes you a target. If you use that lighter, cup your hands. Don't let anyone see the flame. You are not just hiding from the guards now, you are hiding from the desperate. The blacklist doesn't just disarm you, It levels the playing field to the lowest common denominator. Everyone is cold. Everyone is hungry. Everyone is unarmed. Your advantage is not your gear. It is your mind. It is your ability to endure boredom, noise, and fear without cracking. We focus so much on the physical objects, the guns, the knives, the fuel. We are terrified of losing them because we think they contain our survival. But the most dangerous confiscation in week 1 isn't your rifle. It's your agency. When you enter the system, the FEMA camp, the Red Cross shelter, the evacuation bus, you are handing over your ability to decide your own fate. You eat when they say eat. You sleep when they say sleep. You move when they say move. That is the true cost of the blacklist. It is the surrender of self-determination. The goal of preparedness is not just to keep your stuff. It is to stay out of the lines. It is to stay off the trucks. It is to maintain the freedom to make your own choices for as long as possible. But if the water rises and you have to get on that truck, you do it with your head up. You drop the gun, you hug your kids, and you survive to fight another day. Because the weapon was never the point. The protector is the point. And as long as you are breathing, you are still on the job.